Is bodybuilding a sport? That's a good question.
From Houston, Texas, the fabulous Lee Labrada.
The emphasis on the detail, that is what's brought me this far.
So I got into bodybuilding when I was in high school. I noticed that there was a competition coming up. Trained for 6 months for it, competed, and I won the show. And I got to tell you that nobody was more surprised than I was, because I was probably the smallest guy in the show, and I thought it was all about being big. And I rapidly found out that competitive bodybuilding was not just about mass, it was about symmetry, proportion, being in great shape, and just the way you're put together. I think that it's very important to demonstrate the body in an artful way.
And although I did lose some lean muscle tissue, I gained it right back. I mean, just within a matter of weeks after resuming training. And the gains are coming fast and furious. I've never really been envious or jealous of Arnold. I don't want to be anybody else. I just want to be Lee Labrada, and I want to be the best Lee Labrada can be.
I think that my body structure and my symmetry is very, very good, and I'm the best in the United States, and I think we're ahead of everybody.
I put proportion first. I will look at the mirror. I will determine where I need to gain that extra muscle. I will not gain huge muscle mass at the expense of the symmetry and proportion and such. Bodybuilding is a path. It's not a destination. In other words, it's not like one day I magically win the Olympia and I've accomplished everything and I quit. The person that wins a bodybuilding contest should have the best developed body. You know, not the guy with the hugest legs or the hugest back, or the freakiest man. It should be the guy that has it all together. In other words, has a perfectly developed physique.
Because I was giving away such a big advantage in terms of my body weight, competing against guys that were 30, 40, and 50 pounds bigger, I knew that I had to have all of the details right. But I won my class at the 85 Nationals, and then 2 weeks later, I won the IFBB Mr. Universe, the middleweight, and the judges told me afterwards that had there been an overall, I would have won the overall as well.
I'm out to win.
You know, I had to be perfectly in condition. I had to have a perfect presentation. That included posing.
Look at the symmetry he has. Just every pose that he does is like a sculpture. Wonderful moves.
I watch my fat intake very strictly and also monitor the overall intake of calories on the computer. I keep accurate track of all the nutrients that I take in, all the supplements that I take in during the day. And this allows me to make minor modifications in the diet, which a lot of times can have a big impact on the overall appearance of the physique.
Ron, I was the only man in Olympia history to lead Lee Haney after a prejudging. Wow. In fact, I felt that I was in great condition. I felt it could have gone either way. As the cards fell, it went his way, and the rest is history, as they say. Taking second place to Lee Haney was not a consolation prize.
Backbiting does not occur until after the show when you got a lot of pissed off people. I guess everybody's pissed off except the winner. The contest that's the most fun to compete in is the one that I win. I still get that adrenaline rush just as I did when I was a beginner. Getting ready for a contest is not always fun. I mean, that is a hell of a lot of work, and it's a hell of a lot of sacrifice, but the actual day of the show, I mean, that's fun, man. You gotta strengthen that mind at the same time you strengthen your body, because long after that body's gone, your mind's gonna be there.
Every time that I compete, I learn something about myself. I have really gotten it together this year, mentally, physically, and spiritually, and I just feel like I'm really there. I think that it's important to keep in mind that bodybuilding is multifaceted. It isn't just the quest for the most massive man. It is a quest for the most perfect man. So that man is going to be a combination of classical symmetry, proportion, and mass.
I feel to this day that posing is where the art meets the athleticism. My favorite Mr. Olympia. 87 because it was my debut at the Mr. Olympia, and I took third, which was not a small accomplishment. 90 because I was very close to winning after the prejudging, and it just came down to a couple of points. Although that's probably the most disappointing Mr. Olympia for me as well, because I realized at that point that they were just going to keep rewarding the bigger guys. It wasn't going to be judged on much of anything else.
After a thorough warm-up, what I try to do is get up to the heaviest training weight possible, and with that weight, I'll do as many reps as I can, and fatigue the muscle as fast as possible. And then I'll take a rest in between the sets. The rest will be anywhere from just long enough to catch my breath to up to 2 minutes sometimes. It's not really the number of sets that you do; it's the total amount of work. And you should limit yourself by time. In other words, take 20 or 30 minutes per body part, but no more. I'll train for 2 days and I take a day of rest. If I need an extra day of rest, if I feel like I need it, I'll take it. I'm not afraid to rest, you know, but when I do get in the gym, I train very, very seriously. I train very heavy, I train very hard, I train to failure, and I train in as short amount of time as possible, and then I get out.
Let's say hypothetically you woke up one morning and you were 100 pounds overweight. How would you lose weight? How would you go about it, doing it in an irrational, realistic
Staple
manner?
my mouth and handcuff myself to a treadmill.
Interested in classic bodybuilding because I see a renaissance. We're going through a renaissance period now. Open bodybuilding has a shrinking audience, and the extremes that it's going to, I think, are going to limit it. And I think there's always going to be an audience for that. But I think where the growing audience and the growing following and the growing participation is going to come from is classic bodybuilding as we know it today. Let's say that I was a different bodybuilder. If all of those guys were apples, maybe I was an orange.
Is bodybuilding a sport?
That's a good question. I have always argued that it is a sport, and I have always challenged anybody that didn't think it was a sport to try to follow me through several weeks of pre-contest training and then go through the grueling prejudgings that we do for these professional shows. So there's definitely an athletic element involved. However, what we present on the stage that day is actually a presentation. It is not the actual athletic portion of the whole thing. Train hard, believe in yourself, and we'll see you at the top. There's a good psychiatrist friend of mine that has referred to bodybuilders as reverse anorexics. I think there's definitely a psychiatric angle there somewhere, and I haven't figured it out yet, but when I do, I'll let you know.
Once a bodybuilder, always a bodybuilder.